Well, hello everyone. I have with us Antonia Ortiz, who is an amazing teacher in the San Luis Valley at Sierra Grande School District. And so I will let her tell us a little bit more about herself.
Hi there. Thank you, Kim. I'm excited to be here. So I am been in the Blanca Fort Garland area for about 11 years now, but I grew up in Cuesta, New Mexico. That's where my family is from. I was actually born in La Jara, but that's only because that's where the family doctor was. And so instead of traveling to Taos to have me, my grandpa insisted that my mom and dad take the longer route and have me in La Jara at the hospital there. So
Was that Dr. Morrison or Dr. Thomas?
I think it was Dr. Thomas. I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to ask my mom, but I think Dr. Thomas sounds familiar.
Well, those two, the amazing doctors from out there, and that's who actually delivered my brother and I too. So
oh yeah,
we're family physicians forever. So
yeah.
I completely understand.
So Josh actually teases me. He says, "Well, you're not a New Mexico native. You're a Colorado native. You are from Colorado." So yeah. So but we spent a lot of time in Colorado too. I grew up on a ranch. My dad, when I was born, he was a contractor. He was working in construction, and then when my grandpa died, he took over the ranch and continued the ranching, cows, farm, all of that stuff. And so I grew up all around that. We raised cows, we had horses, pigs. We were always in the fields when my dad was irrigating, bucking bales, harvesting the hay, all of that stuff. So we had a pretty busy childhood. We grew up working. So that's kind of
not too different from where we grew up. I mean, Cuesta is maybe about not even an hour away from San Luis, right? Maybe about 45 minutes away, something like that.
Yeah, it's about 45 minutes.
So very, very similar lifestyle, very similar gente, heritage, history.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel so comfortable and why I've been in the area where I'm at now, because it's like home. It feels like home.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then, I found the family, Josh's family, all of you, everybody is just amazing. And so it's my home away from home. So I'm very fortunate to have been able to find a place where I can work and be comfortable and be at home and have everything I need, and the same support that I would have here in New Mexico that I have in Colorado. So
and just for everybody's information, Antonia is my cousin Josh's significant other, and we are very grateful for her and our family, and just happy that you've been with us for so long. And so I just wanted to brag a little bit that she's familia. She's not just a random interviewee.
Thank you.
And I'm proud of the amazing stuff that she's doing in the school out there. So just would you tell us what grade you teach and just some of the experience that you had there, and we can start from there.
All right. So, I graduated in 2004 from Cuesta High School, and I went to Adams State University in Alamosa, and I got my degree in education, elementary education. And I had enough transfer credits from high school, AP classes, and I also took a couple of classes through Colorado College. During the summer, I took an art class and Southwest Studies class my junior and senior, the summers of my junior and senior year, I think it was. And so I had enough transfer credits to even get a double minor in Spanish and art. And so I just soak it up as much as I can. But anyway, after that, I had heard a lot of great things about Sierra Grande when it was coming time to do my student teaching and to decide where I wanted to go. And then I was really interested in all of the great things that were happening there. And so that's where I applied to do my student teaching. And so I student taught in first grade. And so that was a really great experience. The staff was very supportive and welcoming. And after that, I applied to a few different districts, but I really loved Sierra Grande. And at that time, there wasn't an opening. All their positions were filled, and I had to do something different. So I applied to some other districts, and I was offered some positions, and I was just still hoping, hanging on to hope that something would open up at Sierra Grande. And sure enough, it did. In June, I got a call from the superintendent who said, hey, you know what, we have a third grade position opening up. We would love for you to interview. So I went ahead and did that, and was offered the third grade position. And so I taught third grade for 10 years. And then last year, well, it wouldn't be, not this current school year, but the year before, I was offered a position as an instructional coach for math and literacy. So I did that for a year. And so I worked with various different intervention groups from kindergarten all the way up to fifth grade in reading and writing instruction. And I also did some supporting for teachers in the classroom and some instructional modeling and some other things to support them as well. And then this last year, I was asked to go back to the classroom. We had a teacher who had to leave the district. They were moving and they needed to fill a fifth grade position. And I was really nervous about fifth grade. I always thought, third grade is my strength. That's what I love. I've really enjoyed it. I don't know if I could go higher than third grade, but it was a really good experience, and I really enjoyed the fifth graders. And now I think, I don't know if I want to go lower.
To go back, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to go back, but it was a great year. The class that I had this year, they were actually my last third grade class. So it made that transition a lot easier for me because I already knew them, and we had already worked together. And of course, I worked really closely with them when they were in fourth grade the year before as well in my position. So it was a pretty good transition. I did start the school year off with a broken ankle, and mobility was a challenge at the beginning of the school year, but the kids were really helpful, and we made it through. And so it was a really crazy first year of fifth grade, just with everything that's been happening, from the way we started to the way we ended. But the fact that I already had worked with the kids and we already had a relationship built, it made things a lot easier to get through all of the struggles that we faced this year.
Well, tell me a little bit about what Sierra Grande is like. I know that there's a lot of people that are in the urban areas, and the rural experience, I think, is kind of unique. And so if you can describe what being at Sierra Grande is like, and how many third grades do you have, or fifth grades, that kind of thing, and what kind of experience it is to know the families and in that setting, that kind of context.
So Sierra Grande is a K-12 school. Actually, it's pre-K-12, so we do have a preschool program. The preschool and Head Start are working together. So we have students from preschool starting at 3 to 4 years old, all the way up to seniors in the same building. It's one class per grade level. There have been some times when we've had some larger classes that we've had to split because they were over 30 students. But other than that, I mean, we have one class per grade level. We have students that come. This last year, we had students that came traveled from as far as Amalia and Costilla to attend our school in 5th grade. And then, of course, they had some siblings in the lower grades that also attend Sierra Grande. And so we have we've had students that come from Alamosa, but majority of our kids are from the Blanca Fort Garland area. We have some that live right in town. We have some that live in the flats where there's not a lot of them may not have running water or power where they live. We've had students who've come in who are living in camper trailers. We have a lot of students living in camper trailers or tents. This last school year, we had about 30 students, K-12, that were on our homeless list. And part of that is they count them as homeless if they're living with another family or if they're living in a camper trailer or they have, they don't have that traditional home setting. So I'm interested to see what the enrollment is going to look like this coming year.
Yeah, lots of unique challenges, I think, being in the rural area that way, but also some really unique strengths, I think, because of the small school environment too. So just real quick about what is the enrollment like pre-K through 12?
We average between 250 and 300 usually students.
Well, I've been in education probably for about 15 years or so off and on, and one of the districts that I worked in decided that they wanted to go into the small school model because of the one-on-one connection and the smaller teacher to student ratio, and just the ability to be able to connect with every kid and for every kid to have an adult that they can trust to talk to, that kind of thing. So there was a different philosophy that we followed. But so I'm curious. This is, Denver metro area school districts that decided to do the small school thing. And so what kind of strengths do you see being in a small school district like that, provides students with an edge or, something better than, if they were in a bigger district?
Well, I think the greatest advantage is that I know the kids before I even get them in my classroom because we're so small that we interact with them on a daily basis. We see them in the hallways, we see them in the cafeterias, we see them out at recess. And so we've already began to build those relationships with them before they even enter our classroom. And so I know their names. I know their family, being in a small community.
Probably go to church together and
yeah. And so that's what I love about being in a small school and in a small community is you already know everybody for the most part. And if you don't know them, you're going to know them pretty soon. You're going to get to know them pretty quickly. And so you've already had the ability to establish those relationships, which is something that is important. I mean, you can't teach a student. It's not going to be as effective until you've established those relationships with those students. And so that gives us, I mean, that's the biggest benefit of being in a small school.
Yeah, they're more willing to trust and to work and to do things if they know that their support is there and that you know them, you care about them. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So do you have I know you have a teacher license, obviously, but what other certifications or degrees have you earned over time?
So I went back to get my master's a couple years after I started teaching, I qualified for a grant, which they paid for my master's program. So it's in culturally and linguistically diverse education, which is basically ELL.
Culture mixed into it.
Yes, exactly. Definitely culture, incorporating the culture into that is huge. And so that was a big part of our studies and our courses at the time. And so I graduated with my master's in 2012. And then there were actually I believe it was four of us from our school district in the cohort. And so we all went through the program together. And when we came out of the program, we started a professional learning committee in our school for working with ELL students and their families. And we just started to build this program, a stronger program. And our ELL director at the time, he had gone through the same program a few years before. So we all worked really well together, and along with our professors at the time, and who really supported the program that we were working on and building.
I have a couple of questions about that. First of all, what do you think is the biggest benefit of the CLDE program and getting your master's in that with that specific focus? And how do you see that having that knowledge and that background has benefited the families and the students?
Well, I think it's something, it's so important that I think it would be amazing if every teacher could go through that program, because it just brings a whole different awareness of culture, and it really opened my eyes, and I grew up speaking Spanish. I grew up, and that's the first thing you think, especially in our area, is okay, we're gonna be working with those migrant families or those Spanish speaking families. But I mean, you go to a different city or a different area, and it's not just going to be Spanish speaking families. You're going to have other families as well. But I mean, it brings a greater awareness that we are all different. We all have our own different cultures, our own different backgrounds and traditions, and it really taught us different ways of connecting with families of different backgrounds and working with them to support them. And some of the challenges, it also brought an awareness of a lot of the challenges that families of different cultural backgrounds face with the educational system, and how to work with them and support them through that. And so I think that's why it would be such a great benefit for every teacher to go through that program.
Absolutely. So can you give me an example of one way that you've seen the benefits or the fruits of your labor through that program, and how it's impacted your kids?
So one of the things that we did with our PLC group is we collaborated with the community, with families, and we brought in guest speakers and guest presenters that were willing and open to sharing their different cultural experiences or backgrounds, or their skills, their strengths, their talents. And our goal was to create a more inviting environment for our families. Help them to feel welcome, comfortable coming into the school. Show them that they are valued, they are experts. All of them have valuable information and talents that they can share with others. And so we brought in, we did weaving demonstrations. We had musicians come in. We had a lot of different things. We had cultural mornings where the parents would come in, students would, um, every teacher in every grade level or classroom would teach a lesson, literacy-based lesson based around a different culture. And so students got to participate in those with their families, and some students got to share their own cultural traditions. Some shared food, we did family trees where students went home and did some research on their own families, created their family trees, brought them in and shared them with the class. And so it was just, it really empowered our students and our families, and gave them a voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was just amazing. And they were so proud to come in and share about themselves and talk about themselves, and teach others about their lives and their family. So I think that was probably the greatest thing that could have come from this.
Well, and just it gives them a sense of pride in who they are, and a sense of ownership of their education, and that what they have to offer is valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not just the teacher knows everything, the school knows everything, and and I am just there to get filled with this knowledge, but it's like I have something to offer, I have something to incorporate into our education, and it's just as valuable as the other things that I'm learning. So yeah, I think that's incredible. That's really awesome.
Exactly. Yeah.
So in all of this journey through high school, college, getting your master's, being in school, that kind of thing, tell me about an obstacle that you were able to overcome, and how you overcame it.
Well, I was telling my mom about this interview, and I mentioned, Mom, I'm nervous about this, and she kind of laughed. She said, "Oh, well," so I told her about it. That you've been interviewing just successful people from the Valley, and having them share their experiences, and so she kind of laughed. She said, "Oh, you're successful," and I thought, yeah, I guess I am. But the biggest thing that I've really struggled with, and something I've learned about most recently when I was kind of learning strategies and things to work with teachers during my coaching time, was imposter syndrome. And I don't know if you've heard of that before, but that's something that came up in my studies in preparation for my role as an instructional coach. And something that I've always struggled with is, and this is since I was little, going through high school, like I said, I had 21 credits transfer in before I even graduated from high school. And so I've done a lot, but I just never, I always struggled with feeling like I wasn't as knowledgeable as I appeared to be, or that I didn't know as much as people said I did, or I wasn't as successful as people think I am. And that's been my biggest battle and my biggest struggle. Biggest obstacle is just that battle within myself, and I haven't overcome it yet. I'm still struggling with that, but it's getting better. And I've with that I've always been a little hesitant to share, or to verbalize, or to speak up for what I believe, because I'm a little more reserved and afraid of doing that. And so that's part of my my growth, and something that I'm continuing to work on, is speaking up and advocating for myself, advocating for others.
That's so cool that you say that. I think there's so many people that can identify with what you're talking about, and I think that goes in all kinds of different areas, because that's being really humble and modest about who you are. And I think we grow up with that kind of a value, that bragging and talking about yourself is not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to just, you know what I mean? And I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with. I think even when I wrote my book, I struggled calling myself an artist and an author for the longest time. And I was like, but this is who I am, and I think there's power in owning what your calling and your gifting is, and it's not about bragging, but it's about taking ownership of who you are as a person, and I think it's a beautiful thing to be able to acknowledge that about you and understand that there are people that, like, we're all connected, and in my opinion, it's about knowing that what you have to offer is going to bless other people and vice versa. And I admire, you working towards that and being able to talk about it. You know what I mean? Because that's a big deal. So thanks for sharing that. That's awesome. So in all of this, tell me about the best advice you've been given, or what inspired you to become a teacher and to be in the position that you're in.
Well, I think looking back now, if I had been able to predict what my future would look like, just based off of how I was as a little kid, I would have known instantly that I was going to be a teacher. I would collect all of the books when, school would give away books all the time at the end of the school year. These ancient textbooks, math textbooks, reading textbooks, anything I could get my hands on, old encyclopedias, old science books. I had them. I was always coming home with new books, and over the summer I would read them, and I would do the practice, and I would do this and that, and I would pretend school, and there would be without a doubt that I was going to be a teacher.
So is there a piece of advice that you remember, like, during your studies where you thought, oh my gosh, this is too overwhelming, what am I going to do? And was there a voice in your head that said, no, this is, you're on the right path, keep going? Or what was there anything like that kind of happened throughout your journey?
The most memorable experience I had was going through my master's, and again feeling like I just wasn't able to do it, or I couldn't do it, or what I knew wasn't enough. One of my professors, Dr. Ludwig, she was amazing. She was just like, you know what, you know so much, you have so much experience, you have so much to offer to your students in your community and everyone around you, and just keep pushing through. You can do it, you can do it, you can do it. And she never doubted me and my abilities and my knowledge, and she always continued to push me to share everything I knew and everything I was able to do. And she even went as far as saying, hey, you know what, this program that you and your group have worked on to build in your school is amazing. We want you to share that with more people. And she said she arranged for us to present at the Society for Applied Anthropology conference in Denver. And so we got to sit on a panel, and we had to write an abstract for all of the stuff that we've done. We all each had a different part to share. We had this room full of people that came to listen to us talk and share our experiences and our knowledge working with our students. And it was because of her. She said, you guys you're all amazing. You have so much to offer. And so she's the reason. I think she's the number one reason that I was able to finish and get through and know that I could do it. So.
That's awesome. That's so cool. So a couple of things. Again, we talked about how unique the rural experience is, and having 270 students in a district, or 300 students in a district, and some people would say, oh, that's easy. There's only 700 or 270 people or kids in that school district. But I know, again, there's a lot of challenges that go along with that too. And so what was it like to go through COVID this last spring semester, and what kinds of things, were you able to do, build off of strengths that you had and those relationships that we talked about, and to be able to help the students and their families get through? And what do you think about the fall, and where are things going, as far as and that you can tell from here on out?
So that it was pretty crazy. The week before spring break, we were starting to hear schools were shutting down. Schools were, and so we weren't too sure what direction our school district was going to take. We went off to spring break. We had a week off of school. Spent that entire week wondering, well, what is it going to look like? Are we going to go back? And so it was, a lot of us spent that time just starting to plan and prepare for just in case. If we don't go back, what are we going to do? What are we going to do for these kids to continue to support them outside of school, outside of the school building, at home? And so we already, as far, I can speak for the elementary teachers, we had a pretty good plan in place. I'm sure the high school teachers, I don't interact with them as much, but I'm sure they had a pretty good plan as far as what they were going to do as well. But so when we got the announcement that we weren't going to be returning to school for a few weeks, then the next question was, okay, so how are we going to provide these resources to our kids to get them to continue to either reinforce the skills that they've already learned, or are we going to teach them new content? What are we going to do? And so we were very fortunate to have enough tech devices, iPads and Chromebooks, for each of our students to be able to have a device at home. So that was the first thing we worked on getting set up, was getting every student a device to be able to use at home. The challenge, there were a few challenges with that. The first challenge was a majority, well, I wouldn't say a majority, but a large number of families just didn't have the internet access to be able to use those devices at home with the resources that we were providing online. So our school partnered with the Moore Foundation, and they were able to provide, and also with Jade Communications, and they're through Blanca Telephone in Alamosa, to set families up with internet. So they were able to set them up with internet for, I believe, 3 months free internet, and free installation through through the help of the Moore Foundation. And the next obstacle was getting the students to figure out how to use the device, or do the iPads have the apps, or are the iPads up to date in order to be able to use the tools that we would like them to use. And so a lot of our iPads are older, and so we had some challenges that came along with that, things we had to work around to be able to make them user-friendly at home. But we worked through that as well. One of the benefits that I had with my group is, the technology that we have, that we are able to provide with the students, a lot of it is shared, and so we haven't really been a one-to-one school where every kid has a device all day, every day. They would share those devices, with the exception of my class. In 2013, we had a grant that provided a set of iPads for one self-contained classroom. And so I had to do some training. I did a semester's worth of professional development to be able to get that iPad cart and have it for my class. And so I've had it since then. And so these kids, they're used to having the devices all day, every day. And so they had that that experience with the programs that we were already using. And so for them, it was a lot easier for them to just kind of jump in and just continue where we left off in class. Mm-hmm. But not every class had that same experience just because of the limited amount of access that they had before. But it was a challenge, but we got through it. We learned a lot about our practices, our teaching practices, and the support that kids need from home and parents need, and even just the challenges of being a parent, teaching your child at home on top of being responsible for the education of 20 other students who you can't see in person on a daily basis.
So have you all as a district decided how you're going to move forward in the fall, or is it still sort of up in the air?
It's still sort of up in the air. We have 3 options. First option ideally is to start like normal. Mm-hmm. Second option would be a hybrid model where we have maybe students attending for half the time, or split the groups into smaller cohorts. And then the third option would be to start all remote learning again, and then eventually work back into getting back into the school. Right now, the school has, they've put together a committee to kind of work on a plan for starting the school year. We're leaning towards the hybrid model. And so we're looking at maybe having class sizes of, 10 students at a time, having them come for half the week and want the other group coming the second half of the week, and alternating. But nothing's set in stone yet. They're going to be working on putting together some smaller subcommittees with teachers to kind of just see what we can come up with. They also want to see what staff's comfort level is and parents' comfort level is about coming back to school. And so there's just so much that still has to come together to see if that hybrid model is going to actually work. We are building a new school. We're getting a new school, and we already started breaking ground on that. And so we have the goal is to get into the new school building in the fall of 2021. Wow. And so on top of all of this, we also have some things that need to happen with the old school, some cleanup and some preparation to start eventually tearing this old building down. And so we've been working on adjusting our school calendar. And so we will actually be starting back to school earlier this year than what we normally do. So we're looking to start school on August 10th. And so we're really, the time crunch, we're really in a pinch right now to come up with a plan before school starts and make sure that everybody is ready to go. So we have not just the challenge of getting everybody back, reintegrating back into school, but also we have this calendar that we need to work around so that we can continue with our new building.
Well, that's so exciting. Oh my gosh. Also, I guess a little bittersweet for me because my mom went to school there, you know, and there's so many generations of people that I know that have come through there. I even went to school there when I was in the fourth grade. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think there's sort of a legacy with that building, you know, but I definitely understand that there's also challenges that come along with the building that's, you know, that's been around for so long. And so yeah, well, that's really great to hear. But again, it just also presents another obstacle for you all and trying to figure out what to do over the next year. I just so grateful that you took some time to talk with me today and to share your journey and your story, and it helped me get to know you better. You know, and I'm sure that you know that all of your families and your students are just so grateful to have you there, and you know your school district is blessed to have you know your dedication and all of the work that you've done to get this far, and you know the you know just your focus on your students and trying to you know help the district and your community. And so I don't know, I know that this is an unprecedented time and these things are challenging, but just hearing your words and the things that you described you all doing, and it's just it's a little, there's some hope there and some inspiration that things will get things are going to get better, and working together, you know, we'll get through it all. So
Yeah, they will. It's, you know, I try really hard not to dwell on what can happen or
yeah.
worry about the future. Just have to live in the moment and really focus on what you can control, and not worry about what you can't control right now, and just have a plan in place and be ready. And so whether we go back like normal or whether we have to start off differently, it'll be okay. We'll adjust. Our kids are, I mean, it's tough. This whole situation is tough, but our kids are resilient. They'll, you know, they'll adapt. We'll adapt. We'll get through it, and we'll come out all right. We'll be okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So thank you again so much for taking the time with me today and talk about your journey and all the cool things that are happening in that school.
Yeah.
Finally, I guess I have one more question that I should have probably asked while we were talking about like COVID and you know, and even you going through your master's program. Something that has come up in some of my interviews is the idea of self-care and how you you know, we're also again taught to give, and what do you do to fill yourself up to make sure that you have enough to give?
That's been something that I've struggled with. I in the past, I stay late at work. I am never home before 6 o'clock usually. I work a lot in my classroom, but this year I realized, well, even I would come home and get on my computer and I'm working on something for school or researching or planning for the next day or getting materials ready. And so this year I really realized that I need to take better care of myself, because I was getting burnt out. And so I put my computer away. I would bring it home, but usually never opened it. I tried as best I could to leave work at work and come home and be more present for my family. And another thing that I started to do was I've always loved art, and always that's something that I've kind of put on the back burner. And so I decided I needed to do something different with my hands instead of having them working on the computer doing stuff for school. And so I started getting a little crafty and doing a lot of crafts at home, making earrings, doing other different things. And that's been something that's been really helpful for me. So I have earrings coming out of my ears. I have earrings all over the place, and they're just...
Send some over.
Yeah. I'll send you some. Okay. So yeah, but it's been nice, and it's really helped me to really foster that creative side that I had ignored for so long. So it feels good. And then I decided that this, especially now since January, and then now that we've been home, I needed to take better care of myself physically and my health. And so exercise and eating better. And since the end of April, beginning of May, I've been exercising every day and just working on that. And I feel so much better. I feel happier. I feel more energetic. Feel better about myself. And so it's been nice. So those are some things that I've kind of been doing as far as self-care.
Awesome. That sounds awesome. It's perfect. I think, you have to feed your spirit, in lots of different ways. And those are great pieces of advice, I think, that other people can draw upon. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. The biggest thing that I've heard, and it stuck with me the most, is you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yep.
And so unless you take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else. And so and the only person who can really take care of you is you. So you have to step up and get it done.
Yep, exactly. Well, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure talking with you. And
you too. Tell everybody hello for me, and we're sending our love to all of you.
Yeah, same here. Tell everybody I said hello, and I miss them, and hopefully we can all get together soon for our family reunion. Can't wait. Yes. It's been too long.
I know.
Thank you everybody for watching. This has been a La Gente Legacy production and successful in the SLV series. Stay tuned for the final interview in this series on rockstar graduates and educators. And I hope you enjoy.